here. We have 54 people on so far, and it's 2:05. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. I don't want things to, I think this will be a session where there's lots of conversation, and so I want to be sure we don't cut that short. I'm Sarah Basehart. I'm the Executive Director of Independence Now, and we're helping to host this session today. Mostly Mrna, who is our COVID independent living COVID coordinator. I had to look it up and I still got it wrong. And I think I might've made up that title, Mrna, so I apologize. But so Mrna started working with us specifically when the Centers for Independent Living received CARES Act funds, and we knew we were going to be doing a lot more work focused on the pandemic. Of course, I think, what are we at now? 10 months ago or so, we couldn't have imagined that we would still be talking about this this year in 2021 in February, or I wouldn't have imagined that. So welcome to the AM show. This is Independence Amplified Maryland, and we welcome you to our session today that is going to try to bust and discuss some of the myths that you may be hearing, or we dare say seeing, because there's a lot of it going on social media and with video and so forth, things that you're seeing about the vaccine. So this is mostly focused on the vaccine and concerns that you may have about it and things that are not true that are being spread around about the vaccine. We want to make sure people are getting really good information. So this is one of the many sessions that we've had in IAM that's focused specifically on COVID. And these are all hosted by the Centers for Independent Living in Maryland. And we feature many different topics. I think that our topic that's in next week, we won't be here because it's, is that right? Yeah, it's President's Day. And so most of us have a holiday that day, but the following week on the 22nd of February, we'll be back. And that session will be focused on getting involved in grassroots advocacy during a legislative session that's completely virtual. So that'll be the topic in 2 weeks from today. So we welcome you here today, though. I'm gonna have Mrna introduce Duke, who's our main speaker, and I'm gonna manage the slides and then also try to handle the chat box. So we encourage you to chat questions and comments. You're also more than welcome to join in verbally as well when we have opportunity for that. Just ask everyone to respect that there are a lot of different viewpoints out about vaccines and there are a lot of fears. And so we want to be sure to be very respectful that something that you might think is quite outrageous and not sure how others would believe that it was true. People truly believe and are concerned and therefore not taking a vaccine or have stated that they will not take a vaccine for a variety of reasons. So we wanted to have this session to focus on those issues. Mrna, I believe I've covered everything I need to, so I'm going to turn it over to you and get the PowerPoint going.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mrna. As Sarah said, I am the COVID Services Coordinator for Independence Now. We are really excited to have Duke Morrow with us. He comes to us through, he served, his IRB experience includes the University of Michigan Health System. He also serves on a number of boards. He serves with the NIH All of Us research program. He is a longtime advocate for people with disabilities and also a prison advocate, and he's a member of the Biomedical Research Alliance. And I will turn it over to Duke. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mrna. It is good to be here today. There was an earlier invitation that described me as a retired clergy, as a disability advocate, as a ethical research wonk, which maybe is the best description of who I am or what I am. I should also point out that, like many on this call today, I am disabled. I'm an above-the-knee amputee and have been since 2014. I think we all realize that in this, after almost a year of this pandemic, we've learned a lot of things about our country and our medical health system that is pretty scary. Looking at some statistics the other day, if I look at how the pandemic has affected people, obviously we all know that persons of color, indigenous persons, have been extremely negatively affected. Hispanics next. But at the very bottom of the list of those who've been affected worse are people who are disabled. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And that seems to be an ongoing process with the inoculation of people with vaccines. I'd like to point out that I did get the vaccine. I got the Mrna first shot on Saturday, so I'm 2 days out of that, feeling very well, and have no qualms or concerns about it. My expertise is not so much in vaccine safety as it is in the process that vaccines, drugs, all sorts of things are approved by the federal government for distribution or use in medical care. And I've been doing this since 2006. As a side job, now that I'm retired from the clergy, it's pretty much my only job. So go ahead to the next slide, Serena, or Sarah. Yeah. Okay, now I'm speaking to you today from just outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I live. And I can't speak a lot specifically about vaccine priorities in any particular state. These are the Maryland COVID ones, seem to be the CDC guidelines. They're a little bit different in Michigan, but not greatly. I got in this class 1B, which is adults. It says 75 and older, but it's actually 65 here in Michigan. They don't have a 1C here, but it's pretty much the same type of breakdown. Handicapped people are left out of this for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's difficult to get to some handicapped people unless you happen to be living in some type of central location. And I know many of you from Centers of Independent Living do that. And that may be to your advantage to be able to get the shots. I do not live in such a situation. I live at home with my wife, and she is my transportation and so many other things besides caregiver. And she brought me to a location on Saturday morning, which was about what I expected. You sort of go in, you get your shot, and you sit there and you wait for either 15 minutes or half an hour, depending on any underlying health things you may or may not have in your past, and then you're free to go. Let me point out really the process a little bit about how vaccines are approved, and we can open this up for questions later. But basically, a company, in this case, a number of companies, were asked by the federal government to develop vaccines. Some of them were given funding, some were not. They had to come up with a proposal, which had to go to the FDA after that, for the type of vaccine they were going to develop, what it may or may not have involved. The FDA at that point goes ahead, assigns it what they call an IND, an investigational new drug number. They look at the protocol. The protocol is approved by the FDA, and then it goes to an institutional review board, which is a group of individuals, in these cases not affiliated with the drug manufacturers. You typically either independent, commercial independent review boards, or affiliated with some institutional medical institution. That information has not been released. I don't know who actually did the institutional reviews for either the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine, or who's doing the others as they come up. These boards are mandated by federal law. They require experts in the field of whatever it is they're looking at. They also require non-scientist members. They used to be called community members, whose job is to be the advocate for all the patients, subjects who might take this drug or whatever the issue is. That's what I do. I'm also the prisoner advocate for a number of these boards because prisoners are a special group. Disabled people are not considered a specifically vulnerable population, even though they are, not from a federal guideline standpoint. And that is a shame, which means that basically most research done for medical reasons has a very limited number of handicapped individuals involved, which means that in some of these cases, people who are handicapped for whatever reason are not included in the cohorts that whatever drug or intervention is being tested on are done. So this is why in some cases, and maybe you saw this overseas, some countries are not allowing handicapped people to receive certain one of the drugs. The AstraZeneca is one of them in parts of the EU. So what do you need to know to get vaccinated? First of all, are you subject to getting COVID-19? And I think we can honestly say that for everybody in this country, the answer to that is yes. You need to be above the age of 16, 18 in some states. You need to have potentially certain comorbidities. You need to have some issues going on that could make it worse for you. But there are comorbidities and conditions that preclude you from getting the vaccine. And that varies between the two vaccines that are sort of approved at this point. And I say sort of approved because both the COVID and both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are not approved for general use. They are approved under what they call an emergency use authorization. Every dose that is given today is still tracked, and that data is going into the FDA on a regular basis. And at some point, we assume that both of these vaccines and others will be approved for general use, which takes them off this emergency use panic mode of inoculations. When the Moderna one was first approved, it only had a cohort of 15,400 and I believe it's 80 people who had the drug tested on them. There were some handicapped people in there. There were some extremely elderly people in there. There were some people with various medical issues. And in some cases, there were what they call adverse events. When we look at 15,000 people doing any one thing, there's always going to be something that goes wrong. Now that we're way beyond that 15,480 from Moderna in the millions, there frankly is going to be a number of things that go wrong. Some of these are expected, some are unexpected. Every one is investigated. If it is caused by the vaccine, depending on the severity of what the reaction might have been, worst case could be the vaccine would be stopped. Best case usually is that you look at the numbers and you say either the risks of the vaccine outweigh not getting it, or the risks are much less than getting the vaccine. So people who are very knowledgeable at the FDA, at drug companies, at institutional review boards are looking at this probably on a daily basis. That much I know. Is there any risk to getting the vaccine? Yes, and there will be. Any drug you take has some risk involved. Usually they're minor. Once in a while on the news, you'll see something about a person dying after receiving a vaccine, regardless of which one. And that's not unexpected when we look at millions of people getting vaccinated. For somebody to die after receiving it, whether it was caused by the vaccine or not, is another story. The way the system works, if I were to get the vaccine on Saturday, go out on go out this afternoon, roll my wheelchair in front of a car, get run over and die, that would be listed as an adverse event against the vaccine use. So it's far more than what the vaccine can do to you. They are all investigated, they're all looked at, and they're all, I think, adequately covered. It's not a simple process. One of the questions we had when we started to put this together is, what are the concerns of people who are looking at getting vaccinated, and what do they need to know? What are they afraid of? What are their real reasons for either getting vaccinated or not getting vaccinated? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, many vaccines, many of the flu vaccines, some of the first polio vaccines, smallpox vaccines, and so forth, actually contain some part of the virus that causes the disease. That's true today. The COVID vaccines that have been approved so far are not in that case. They do not contain any part of the virus, and they cannot cause an infection or a positive result on a viral test. Okay.
I'm going to ask Serena to read each fact on the page because there may be people who aren't able to see.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Okay.
Serena.
Read out on the slide. Okay. Fact 1, a COVID-19 vaccine will not give you COVID-19. A COVID vaccine does not contain any part of the virus and cannot cause an infection or a positive result on a viral test.
We've all heard about Operation Warp Speed, and for those of us who still like Star Trek, we think that's a great name. But in any event, early on in the development phase, unfortunately, there was a lot of what appeared to be politicization of the development process. I can assure you from everything I've read and know about the process, that doesn't mean it is not safe. The development of both these vaccines and others as they come along certainly did take place in a remarkable short amount of time. But in this case, we have a lot of scientific progress happened years ago, decades ago, and collaboration between scientists all over the world on different vaccines, different types of vaccines, and what they do. Do you want to read the fact?
Yeah. Yes. Just to frame it, I think one of the most common fears is this has happened so fast. You got a vaccine so fast. So this addresses that. Fact number 2, quick development of a COVID-19 vaccine does not mean it's not safe. Significant scientific progress decades before the pandemic, in addition to collaboration among scientists, has made the rapid development possible. So some of the research and the collaboration has been happening for decades before this.
We have a question in the chat that I'm going to read, Duke, because it's pertinent at the moment. If the vaccine does not contain the virus, like other vaccines do, that tell the body to repel it, then what is the mechanism of action? So, how is it working if it's not that way that we typically learned about vaccines?
My understanding is that they have taken some of the RNA, ribonucleic acid, which is a genetic material, and modified it so that it tells the human body, tells cells in the human body, what they call T cells and B cells, to fight against whatever exposure you have to the COVID-19 disease itself, the virus itself. I am not a epidemiologist, so I really can't get into much more detail than that.
Yeah,
what I do. Go ahead.
No, I cut you off.
The issue is, how does it affect the human body? It changes your cells so that they react to the virus. Okay, and then your body on its own fights the virus off. Is it perfect? No. Is it darn good? Yes, really good. Both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are much more effective than some of the other vaccines on the market in various parts of the world, but also against all the other vaccines you've had in your life. Okay, flu is typically 60 to 70% effective virus. We get those every year, don't even think about it. The pneumonia vaccine, which many of us who, when you get to be my age, they say you've got to have, that's somewhere in the 50 to 55% range of effectiveness. Both these vaccines are in the 90% range. And as far as we can tell at this point, are as effective against some of the modified viral loads that are coming up, the variants. That remains to be seen if that's true for all of them. And it's probably not true for those that may come along. COVID seems to be an extremely remarkable, COVID-19 remarkable virus that has a way of genetically modifying itself and finding new traits, whether it's the ability to be spread easier or the ability to harm the body more. That's an ongoing process, and that will probably go on for years. Okay.
Serena, do you want to read these are the questions that Duke was kind of like pondering and thinking that people on the call might be pondering, so we just sort of throw them out and then have people react?
Okay. Has the politicization of the approval decision affected your decision to receive the vaccine? And also, oh, you know what, I'll just let people answer that and then we'll go on to the second one. So has politicizing the vaccine affected anyone's decision to either get it or not get it?
Obviously, in my case, it has not. I'll be honest with you, as we went through some of this process earlier in the year, when it appeared that the politicizing of the process was an ongoing thing, that it was something I was concerned about. As it turns out, almost all of that was rhetoric. It really did not affect how the vaccine was developed and tested and approved. Now, does it guarantee safety for people with disabilities or underlying health conditions? Guarantee? No. Does it make it a lot better than getting COVID-19? Yes. You have to outweigh your own risks.
Duke, this is Katie. I had said from the beginning when people were asking, are you going to get the vaccine? I said, if Dr. Fauci gets it, then I'll get it. And Dr. Fauci got it. So I'm going to get it because that was the deal.
So is there any history that could tell us what can go wrong with messenger RNA, these mRNA vaccines that actually don't have any vaccine in them? In other words, I know we've been working with this for 20 years or so. What can go wrong? Or is there a sense of, is there any of that we have a history to track?
Duke, we do have someone on. Cheryl Grossman was letting me know that, she has some understanding and I guess good way of explaining this type of vaccine. If we wanted to, invite her in now, if to respond to that. Was that okay with you, Duke?
Yes.
Okay. Cheryl, do you want to unmute yourself and share your info on the mRNA?
Sure, this is Cheryl. Thank you. Sorry, it's really hard for me to break in on a session, but so the mRNA vaccines, to go back to an earlier question, how it works, for those of you who have seen the imaginary pictures of the COVID-19 virus, it's a blue blob with lots of red spiky things coming off of the outer edge of it. And those red spiky parts are supposed to represent what they call a spike protein, which exists on the outer edge of the membrane of the virus. Those spike proteins are containing the messenger RNA, or the mRNA. And it's this piece that sticks into the cell in the human body. So without those spiky parts, it can't attach to the cells. It can't get into the cell of your body. And so with the messenger RNA protein, what they've done is they've recreated what that spike looks like to your body. And so when they give that vaccine, what they're giving is just that piece that the body would need to recognize as unique to the COVID-19 virus, that your body then can identify as this particular foreign object, and then for your immune system to respond to that and to develop antibodies too. So where the other vaccines, you're actually putting the whole dead virus in, or a very weakened virus in to the body that the body then responds to, this is just a very small piece, the messenger RNA of the spike protein, to identify it. To Mike's question, I don't know that we have enough yet, but what we do have is, your body responds in a similar way that it responds to other vaccines if you create antibodies. So your body could fail to respond to it, or your body could go into overdrive, what they call a cytokine storm, and actually you get more symptoms of things. That's similar to other vaccines. What's specific to this, I don't know that we have enough information yet.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was really thorough.
Thank you.
And we have
We've
one
got a
more
couple
question.
Questions. Yeah.
Sorry, we have some chats. I just wanted to, Carlos G says, the politicization of the vaccine has made me very skeptical about getting it, especially since it was rushed out and unproven. Yes, definitely it has been politicized, has been used as a football. I think we can address the second part for sure. One, the idea that it was rushed, and two, the idea that this is unproven. So Duke, if you want to take that away.
Okay, well, is it as proven as if it had not been an emergency situation? Probably not. I'm not a statistician. I know enough about statistics to recognize that the larger the sample, the more reliable the results. 15,480 people is not reliable enough to get every single issue out that would come up with a larger sample. Does it get the vast majority of them? Yes. Is that being modified as we speak today under real time? Yes. And since the day the first dose was given. Like I said before, I think the politicization is only rhetoric from certain politicians to prove or disprove the existence of the pandemic from a standpoint of winning elections. And that's a terrible shame that people should do that, but that's what happened. There's been a couple of chat pop-ups here that have to do with the ingredients. I can read the ingredients in Mrna off to you right now if I wanted to, but I would probably mispronounce half the words in it.
I apologize. Could I just...
That's not a problem.
And they are listed.
They are listed on the websites. They're also listed on the CDC websites. There's no surprises here. And they're very clear. If you're allergic to any one of these ingredients, you should not probably get the any dose of this particular vaccine. You should be very cautious if you've had previous reactions to any of the ingredients in the vaccine, and or you've had anaphylactic shock from previous vaccine injections, regardless of what it was for. That's really what the warnings are.
This is Cheryl. Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
So most vaccines have a sugar solution that's sort of like added to help it go in, like as an inactive ingredient.
Yes.
And I noticed on CDC that both Moderna and Pfizer have this, but what they don't list, either on the CDC site or when you call the actual companies, they're not giving an amount. So those of us who are non-insulin dependent diabetics have no idea how to bring, like we have to get a prescription ahead of time to take certain medications. We need to know this ahead of time so that we can get that prescription filled to take it with us to take these vaccines. And when you call the companies, they're saying it's proprietary information, so the health department will know that, but they're not giving that information to us. So how's another way that we can find that out? Our doctors do not know. We've asked.
I don't have any particular magic answer for your question there. If your doctors can't give you the information you need on whether you should take medicines prior to taking these, I'm not sure where to tell you to go, I'll be honest.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions coming up, and I do want to remind people that Duke works on the ethics of vaccines and testing, and that he's not a medical doctor, you know, and so let's make sure that if you're having questions about the medical side of this, you should be talking to your medical doctor. But I get that there's certainly concerns within getting the vaccine about all of these things. Several questions about the ingredients, and Stacy, thank you, posted, and Duke already said that they're listed on the website. There was one more here but I don't think this is what Duke said. So if someone has had an adverse reaction to a flu shot, should they not get this vaccine? And that's not what he said. He said if you've had an adverse reaction to one of the ingredients listed in the vaccine, that you should be talking to people talking to medical doctors before getting the vaccine. So I want to be clear, it doesn't have anything to do with the flu shot. Sorry, there's another one here. So someone way at the beginning asked about people with developmental disabilities being able to access the vaccine. And I don't know if any of our SIL directors or if Cheryl wants to, comment on all of the issues that there are at the moment. And it's very county specific about what's going on with people being able to access the vaccine and what category you fall in. And so I'm fearful of getting into a long conversation about that because it is very specific to your county. So I encourage you to reach out to your local Center for Independent Living and the staff there who are working on bringing people the best information, because then Crosby asked, and he's in Baltimore, so you should talk to Image Center staff about it, because they're going to be the ones. I know Serena is very familiar in our area about it in Montgomery and Prince George, but someone mentioned that Cecil County Hospital is vaccinating people with disabilities, and their full-time caregivers must schedule for appointment. They are accepting people from out of county as well. Also, almost all of the Walmart pharmacies are getting 200 vaccines a week and are scheduling people with developmental disabilities as soon as possible. Most schedule with an appointment. Both were still giving Mrna vaccine at the last time we've heard. So people are sharing information. I heard it on a call earlier today, and I've said it myself, it's becoming a hunt for the vaccine, right? So like you're eligible, you're in an eligible category, and then you're trying to find somewhere you can get an appointment. It's a very difficult situation that we've put people in. So here's another question or comment that it helps that there's some knowledge There's been this type of research on the vaccine since the early 2000s. So thank you, Duke. That was good information. Okay, Serena, should we go ahead?
I did see a site from the California when they're describing all of the ingredients that says there are 6 milligrams of sucrose in the Pfizer vaccine. I haven't found the Moderna one yet. So.
Thank you, Mike. This is Cheryl.
Great.
Okay.
And then Abiola put in the listing of the vaccine so anybody can get it from there. Here's another question. We've heard about the vaccine that it can cause male infertility or cause a woman to be unable to carry a baby. Have you heard anything about that? I didn't think, at the last I heard, pregnant people were not included in the tests. So that was the last I heard. I'll let Duke respond if you've heard.
As far as I know, they have not been included in the test. I also have 2 family members, no, excuse me, 1 who is pregnant and received the vaccine. So,
this is Jerry at Southern Maryland Center for Independent Living. There's a lot of push for this vaccine, but there's a group of people that's left out and they have no idea what's going on. And we're talking about veterans that served in Vietnam, veterans that served in Korea and the DMZ. There is a rare disease that's caused by Agent Orange. It is called Guillain-Barré syndrome. Taking flu shots is like putting a 38 in your mouth and pulling the trigger. Because this virus, this vaccine uses mRNA, that is the same foundation that flu shots have. The only way veterans know if they have been tested. I'm one of the few who have been tested. I am positive for the Guillain-Barré syndrome, so I cannot take flu shots, nor will I be able to take this COVID-19 vaccine. My concern is we're spending a lot of time on pushing it, very little time on educating on the deadly side effects, not just the minor side effects, but the deadly side effects. VA found out the hard way. We have killed a few veterans by giving them the vaccine and not knowing that they're positive for Guillain-Barré syndrome. So we need to be mindful, and everybody is different. None of us fall under the same umbrella. So I would suggest that you check with your neurologist, before you decide to take a shot like this. Just information.
Thank you, Jerry. I think that's excellent information that I had not heard before. So I'm definitely going to look that up so that we can be sharing.
Sarah, that is on the
VAs.
AD website, Dr. Fauci and gang. That is listed on that website there.
Thank you. Thanks.
I want to thank you for that. I know the VA has got a number of studies going on with different types of veterans who have been exposed to different types of chemicals over the years. And the Agent Orange is not the only one that is a concern.
Yeah, Roundup is also in that same category.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of stuff out there, but if you have any concerns from a medical standpoint, go check with your doctor, check with your neurologist, check with any authority you can find who might have the information. The education has been, as you indicated, certainly focused on getting people to do it, because if we don't get enough people who are vaccinated, we're not going to be able to bring this pandemic to an end. So there's a downside if people don't get it because of the fear, a very serious downside.
Yeah, that was one of the things that made the most impact on me. And Jerry, I'll say it for you, that because I can get the vaccine, I will, to protect other people, because I know there will be friends and family who can't get it for a variety of reasons. And so I just put that out to people's minds as well, that, maybe you're uncertain, but if you don't have the underlying things that are going to cause issue, I encourage you to think about it, because there will be, members of our community that can't get it. So, all right, Duke, or Serena, shall we go on with this fact? I'm just mindful that it's 2:45. Thank you.
Okay, fact 5. We know exactly what is in the COVID vaccines. Pfizer and Moderna have published their ingredients list. It's in the chat, I believe, for their COVID-19 vaccines. Speculation that either contains tracking devices or microchips have been proven false. There are no microchips.
There's a lot of intentional misinformation out there, and that should be criminalized, but it still goes on. There are no tracking devices. There are no microchips. Why people would even say that, I have no idea. Next slide.
Fact 6, radio frequency again, the tracking. Radio frequency identification microchips will not be injected with the COVID-19 vaccine. And a bit of background about this. There was a video shared over 27,000 times on Facebook that implied that the vaccine would contain a tracking chip that would be injected. That's not happening. The vaccine syringes will likely contain something called an RFID microchip from the Medical Solutions company, the name of the company, which will allow public health agencies. So that's for tracking the information where it was administered, specifically with the vaccine, not as regards to your person. So that's just for the companies, like tracking purposes for their own vaccine.
In other words, the shipment is being tracked, the vials are being tracked. They just, the people aren't being tracked per se, right?
The product,
That's
and
correct.
it's
The
everything
product,
has a serial number. Like your bananas in the supermarket have a serial number. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, they
Well,
don't.
and you know, the logic test, as it was pointed out earlier, is, what would the point be of putting something in your arm that needs to have electricity to operate, since it's not going to last very long?
So there's a couple more good questions here. And also Molly Prince made a comment, if I've already had COVID, I've decided to decline COVID. I think she means a vaccine, to give someone else the opportunity to get the vaccine. I was planning on getting it later this year. I've not received my smell completely back yet. I'm worried because I've had brain injuries, AVM, and epilepsy. The COVID affects the the blood vessels near the brain in the palate and nasal passages. This worries me about receiving the shot. I have not heard education on this from neurological disorders. So I guess, has anyone, thank you, that's interesting information I hadn't heard yet. I know about the smell, but did anybody have any information in regards to that?
I can only give you anecdotal information. I have 2 family members, a son and a daughter-in-law, both who had COVID, and both lost their smell. And that symptom is still lasting. And it's been quite a while now, since one of them before Christmas. Whether that's due to anything else, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. They're discovering all sorts of side effects from having COVID-19 in all sorts of body organs. They're discovering stuff in kids. They're discovering stuff in, the big one right now is kidneys, was the last one I read. But there's all sorts of risks in getting the virus. My son, who had the option of getting a COVID shot after he got the vaccine, no, he got the virus first, then the vaccine. And he's a medical worker. They thought it was the better choice of long-term protection. The amount that having the virus protects you is still in studies. I'm not going to say it doesn't or does, We sort of expect that from all the other viruses we've had in our lifetimes in our history. But we don't know that yet about COVID. So.
There's another question. I've wondered this myself. What about traveling? Will we need to carry our card with us to travel? And I think Molly's referring to the card that you get once you've had your vaccine.
My best guess is probably, but that has not been determined yet by any, and that would be a government action. So
I've wondered about that.
Yes, you probably will.
I've wondered about that at our office. Like, will we
Sure.
require to see that people have been, I don't have an answer. I'm not saying that it will. It's crossed my mind as something to think about. So I think that's the end of these questions.
I know a little bit. Can you guys hear me okay?
Thank you, Amanda.
Sure. Yeah, I know a little bit about travel just because someone recently asked this on one of our Facebook group pages. So each state has their own laws for travel if you are coming in to the state. So if you're traveling domestically, I would check on the state's website because, like Pennsylvania, for example, you have to prove that you've had a negative COVID test if you are flying into Pennsylvania. But every state is different, so that's what I would suggest.
But what about the vaccine? I think they're referring to when you get the vaccinated, you get a CDC card. It's a tiny little card that shows your vaccine, like, serial number and this kind of information. I think that's what they're talking about.
Right.
Like, will we carry that along with our Maryland IDs, or what will we do?
Yeah, I think it's still going to be up to each state. Like, state by state is going to have their own rules and regulations. So it's just, I would check before getting on the flight, to whatever state is your final destination and what their rules are. It's almost like immigration, right? When you pass through immigration. So for example, like Hawaii and Alaska right now have stronger laws and rules, but they do anyways. When you're traveling in and out and through customs, they have like stronger customs laws in Hawaii. So
one of the data points that we still don't have is we still don't know if after you have gotten the vaccine, could you still be potentially a carrier? So that's probably why some states are going to leave in place for a while the requirement that you get a negative test prior to flying or traveling into that state, is because we just don't have enough data yet.
And Sarah, for U.S. military and their defendants, it is in their international shot record. You cannot, if you're in the Navy and you go to Australia, you have to prove that you have been vaccinated or you can't get off the ship. So it
carry that, yeah.
So it makes sense. The problem is, if we ever get a federal system in this country, then we won't have to worry about traveling from state to state because there will be a uniform policy in place. But right now, we're not there yet, so.
Oh, I'm glad I came because I really wasn't going to go. I want to get this.
There's one more question or a comment in the chat. It says, since the vaccine is voluntary, it will be hard to require proof of vaccination. This would be for people who had voluntarily decided to get the vaccine and then they are provided with a card. If I'm reading that right, I think. So you got the vaccine, you have a card. Do you show people that you got the vaccine? But it is voluntary. That's also the thing too.
It is voluntary. We also don't know, even after you've had the vaccine, how long that protection might last you. That remains to be learned yet. It would be really good, as Mr. Taylor indicated, that if we had a consistent policy for every state, a federal guideline, federal policy that was mandated, it would make it so much simpler and safer, I think, for everybody.
So if there's other questions that people want to ask, I'm thinking, Janice has her hand up. Sorry, I can see that now. For some reason, I thought I couldn't see that.
Yes, I have a question. My question is, for people who have underlying conditions, I know they're in a certain class right now, but do you have a choice of which vaccine that you want to have? Because the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that's being rushed for approval, that's supposed to be a one-shot deal and protect you from future, problems with your health. And that's the one I guess is not as effective as the other two, but it does protect you more because you will not, develop any of these other conditions or fears after you've had the shot. So do you have a choice of which shot that you want or just the one available?
As of right now, is available.
And Cheryl was going to add to that.
Yeah, this is Cheryl. First, that's a question that you want to be asking your doctor because it's not that this new one is less effective, it's that it works in a different way. And for some of us, our immune systems are not going to work really well for that one, but it would work better for the mRNA. And for other people, like we've already heard before, the mRNA one is not, because of the way it works in the body, is probably not the best choice. Right now, you only have the mRNA ones out there. And while we expect the other one to come on, in the next month to month and a half, at that point, if you're sent to a site that only has the one that's not going to work for you, that's where you need to work with your doctor to make sure that they're signing you up for the product that's going to work best for you. And in Maryland, you do have the option to go through your doctor. It's not a great system yet. It's not up and running yet. But that might be something that you talk to your doctor about now so that when things are ready, you can jump on it in the way that makes sense for you.
Okay, thank you.
How about other questions?
Well, not a question, but a good heads up in the comments from Audrey Sellers. Free PPE and safety supplies are available to Anne Arundel and Howard County residents with disabilities. And then she drops the link. So
Thank you very much.
thank you. And then the Baltimore VA hospital at Green Street is having vaccine clinics that are walk-in for veterans. But phone number is also in the chat. So that's a super good resource if you're in the area and you're a veteran.
All right, let's call for questions. And thank you, Duke, very much for sharing.
Well, thank you for allowing me to share what I know. Somebody had their hand up. Sid.
Janice, I think we got her. Yep.
Oh, Sid,
No,
I think.
Sid.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I can't see everything with the chat. Sorry, Sid.
Oh, no, it's okay. This is just an aside to Duke. I'm in Lapeer, Michigan, Duke.
Oh, okay. Neighbor.
And I'm looking out the window and it's 18 degrees and this morning it was -7. So I want to thank you for braving the weather and coming on today.
I didn't leave my den.
Not
How
many
did
of
we
us
get all
have.
these Michiganers
How
on?
did you hear? Wait, how did you hear about it, Sid?
Well, I have a daughter with disabilities. My wife passed away recently and we're moving to either Baltimore County or Howard County because my son lives in Baltimore County. And we're going to be closer together. So I'm just learning all I can about available resources and what's happening.
It's great to connect. Thank you.
Thank
So I
you.
want to thank you.
All right, any other questions? And then I'm going to see if, I don't know, Katie, if you had heard from anybody about any legislative updates. If not, that's fine, but I just wanted to give them a minute. Serena, did you have anything else? I'm sorry.
No, I just want to thank Duke for coming. Thank you everyone for your questions and all the resources.
Yeah, this was a great idea.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to mention that as I think Sarah had mentioned, don't miss out. In 2 weeks, we're going to be having a great kind of legislative grassroots advocacy session talking about the legislature and what's going on there, as well as some of the issues. And we will be unveiling the first ever Maryland Independent Living Network public policy platform. So we hope to see you there. It's unveiling.
I'm looking forward to it.
I know.
And I do,
Excited.
Abiola, will you talk about the Friday night event? Because that's open to all Centers for Independent Living in Maryland. And those of you from Michigan are more than welcome to join too.
We are so
Thank you.
excited. Independence Now is going to be hosting for all the CILs as well as all consumers movie night. So where we can gather again this Friday, the 12th of February, from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I just dropped into the chat, excuse me, the name of the film. It's called Asperger's or Us. It's on Netflix. And we're going to just have a, look at it together. We can have a chat about it, but all 7 CILs in Maryland are invited, as well as Sarah indicated CILs from anywhere else. Again, it's from 5 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, DC time. And I also put in the link, the registration link. So you want to click that link to sign up before the event so that you get the confirmation email and the confirmation login details. But we would so love to have everybody here that's on the call right now to join us. So we hope you will. Friday, 5 to 7.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more event plug. We have a Facing COVID Now session, which is just talking about your mental and emotional health around COVID. Our next session is coming up Monday, Monday, February 15th from 12 to 1. We'd love to see people there. Dr. Ali is incredible, and she facilitates these incredible discussions. So the link to register is there.
I'm feeling like I'm not doing a good job representing what we have going on at ARI. So check out our Facebook. Our events are posted on there. We have a couple of things, not as much as Independence Now. It's hard to compete, but we do have some cool stuff going on.
Well, everyone is welcome to our events, so you don't have to be
Be nice, Katie.
You don't have to be a consumer of Independence Now to attend. I do have some overachievers on my staff, that's for sure.
Just a few.
Well, thank you all. And I guess then we'll do more legislative discussion in 2 weeks at that session. Dave, did you want to add anything else about that session that I might have missed, or?
I think between you and Katie, you covered it pretty well. So I hope everyone will be there. I think it's going to be informative, and hopefully there'll be time to have lively discussion as well. And I know what the unveiling will be, but I think we can all be proud of it, and it'll be fun to actually see our policy agenda come out and be able to unveil that for people.
Well, thanks to you all, Duke and Serena, thank you so much, and Cheryl and Jerry and everyone who added information that it's such a popular topic right now, right? You can barely get through a conversation with other humans at the moment that doesn't end up in vaccine or COVID conversation, or at least that's how my life seems to go. So we will see everyone in 2 weeks, and thanks so much.
We'll be doing our best to get this posted on the YouTube channel as soon as possible.
Okay.
Too.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.